Okay, good evening, everyone. Anania, nice to see you. So today will be the last sharing for me. So on 24th, I'm going back to my country. So the topic today that I would like to share, this Dhamma sharing is about sickness in connection to this Girimananda Sutta. But before that, let us start with Namo Tassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So this evening, I'm not going to study about sutta, but just in reference to the Girimananda Sutta with my personal experience. Okay, so in this sutta, it talk about when Girimananda Venerable was very sick. So he afflicted and gravely ill. And then Venerable Ananda approached the Blessed One and saying that it would be good if Buddha would, out of compassion, to visit Venerable Girimananda. And then the follows, the Buddha talked about the 10 perceptions. The Buddha say, if Venerable Girimananda would hearing about these 10 perceptions, then his affliction will immediately subside. So before we are going on discussing this teaching of the Buddha, let us have 20 minutes of meditation first to calm the mind. Okay. So please sit at your comfort posture. This evening, I would like you to have your time. Meditate with your preference method, which is helpful for you. Let's sit quietly for 20 minutes. Now this is the end of the sitting meditation session. Please take 3 deep breaths. And when you are ready, please open your eyes gently. Okay. So this evening I will talk about the body and mind. So as we understand, the body and mind is interrelated. When the body is very sick, severely sick, it affects the mind. And in the sutta, we also found that in different places where after the Venerable monk has listened to, for example, the Bujanga Sutta, then they recover from the severe illness. But also there are occasions where we might find a little disturbed when we talk about the Sangha, the Venerable suicide because of sickness, the severe illness. But this is true. So before we discuss about that, I want to share about like my own experience. Whenever I have high fever, so for the reason of allergic to all type of medication that cure fever, then I couldn't take any medicine. And at that moment, the mind is very much feel uncomfort because of uh, the bodily pain, feel agitated. The mind is agitated because of the body suffering. And then what I can do is always just to lie down and rest until the fever gone by itself, because I'm allergic to all kind of fever ingredients medicine. Then what very helpful for me is this the sutta that I refer to this evening, Girimananda Sutta. The sutta describe about when Venerable Girimananda is sick, gravely ill, then the Buddha tell Ananda, if you would share with him the 10 perception, then he will immediately recover and his affliction will subside. So can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Okay, good. And then Venerable Ananda went to Bhikkhu Girimananda. So what are those 10 perceptions? It's a perception of anicca, perception of anatta, perception of unattractiveness, perception of danger, perception of abandoning, dispassion, perception of cessation, and also perception of non-delight in the entire world, perception of impermanence in all conditioned phenomena, and the last one is about mindfulness of breathing. When you talk about the perception of impermanence, anicca, it refers to the 5 aggregates which we can contemplate on the impermanence of these five aggregates subject to clinging that we call human beings, our rupa, vedana, sanya, sankhara, and vijnana. Our form, bodily form, our feeling, vedana, our perception, sanya, our consciousness, vijnana, and our mental formation, sankhara. So when we contemplate on the impermanence of these five aggregates, this is one of the way to be aware of the ultimate truth and to dissolve the clinging. This like intellectually not yet enlightened. And the second, when contemplate on the perception of non-self, anatta, so the Buddha teach to contemplate on the six external and six internal sense spaces, the 12 ayatana as non-self, the eye, ear, eye with the external object, the form, ear with sound, the nose with odor, tongue with a taste, and the body and tangible object, and the mind and the mental phenomena. So all these six internal and external sense bases are non-self. Then it goes on for unattractiveness is about the 32 parts of the body, our head hair, body hair, nail, teeth, skin. And what are the perception of danger? The danger about this body could have many kinds of disease anytime that we get sick. So I'm not going to discuss the whole sutta here, but just to tell that at the time when I was very sick, so when I play this sutta, when I'm hearing this sutta chanted, and then I do the contemplation on the teaching, then it helps to calm down the mind from agitation of the bodily pain, of the uncomfort feeling that come from the fever, fatigue, heat, headache. Yeah. So, and then after a couple of days, the physical body sweat by itself and the fever reduce back to normal. And then there's the way how I recover every time. So even I'm not an enlightened being, but just by contemplating in this way, it helps to recover from sickness, from the high fever. I do not know if anyone of our Dhamma friends here in the room would have, perhaps later you can share how your experience with how the Dhamma or the Sutta could helpful for you during your sickness, help to recover without medication, rather the bhavana meditation. Besides that, let us look at some of the sutta that just now I talk about. There are some Venerable Bhikkhu in the past during the time of the Buddha who has listened to, for example, Mahakassapa Bojjhanga Sutta, and then Mahakassapa Venerable has recovered from his illness. So this is some of the example. Even the Buddha himself or Venerable Bhikkhu Chunda, the same happened. When they recollect the Satta Bojjhanga, the 7 factors of enlightenment, then immediately they recover from their illness. I think this because they are the enlightened being, and this help to make the mind focus again when they hear the teaching. because they had already experienced this mind cultivation up to enlighten. But just because the physical body are so seriously ill that agitated the mind for the moment. But however, when someone remind them, for example, like Buddha when he was very sick and he asked uh, Venerable, his disciple, to recite again the Sattabhujanga, 7 factors of enlightenment. Uh, having heard that, he recovered immediately. But besides that, there are also the venerable monks during the time of the Buddha who, due to severe ill and cannot stand for that uh, suffering of the physical body, that agitated the mind and they eventually suicide. For example, we can find in Chanuvada Sutta in Majjhima Nikaya 144. I think I'll share with you in the chat room. Then when you have time, you can read. Okay. So here I would like to share with you about the Chanuvada Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 144. The sutta telling about when Venerable Channa was very sick, Venerable Sariputta invite Venerable Chunda together to visit Venerable Channa. And when Sariputta arrived there, so he said to Channa, he asking him, I hope you are keeping well, Venerable Channa. I hope you are all right. I hope that your pain is fading, not growing. That is fading is evident, not is growing. But how? Venerable Channa replied. He said, I'm not keeping well, Venerable Sariputta. I'm not all right. The pain is terrible and growing, not fading. It's growing, it's evident, not is fading. Now we can understand the mind of Venerable Channa, how he described his pain to Venerable Sariputta. Venerable Channa said, the winds piercing my head are so severe. It feels like a strong man drilling into my head with a sharp point. The pain in my head is so severe. It feels like a strong man tightening a tough leather strap around my head. The winds piercing my belly are so severe. It feels like a deaf butcher or the apprentice is slicing my belly open with a meat cleaver. The burning in my body is so severe. It feels like two strong men grabbing a weaker man by the arms to burn and scorch him on a pit of glowing coal. I'm not keeping well. I'm not all right. The pain is terrible and growing, not fading. It's growing, it's evident, not is fading. And then Brahmacharya informed Brahmasariputta, I will slit my wrist. I don't wish to live. Then Brahmasariputta said, please don't slit your wrist, Brahmacharya. Keep going. We want you to keep going. If you don't have any suitable food, we will find for you. If you don't have suitable medicine, we will find it for you. If you don't have a capable carer, we will find one for you. Please don't slit your wrist. Vairochana, keep going. We want you to keep going. Vairochana said to Sariputta, it is not that I don't have suitable food, or suitable medicine, or a capable carer. Moreover, for a long time now, I have served the teacher with love, not without love. For it is proper for a disciple to serve the teacher with love, not without love. You should remember this, Venerable Sariputta. The mendicant Channa slit his wrist blamelessly. So what do you think about why Venerable Channa say he slit his wrist blamelessly? And then Venerable Sariputta asked Venerable Channa, I would like to ask you about a certain point. If you would take the time to answer. Venerable Sariputta tried to shift the mind of Venerable Channa from his sickness. Do you regard the eye consciousness, and things knowable by eye consciousness in this way? This is mine, I am this is myself. Likewise, do you regard the ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, the mind consciousness, and things knowable by mind consciousness as this is mine, I am this is myself? Vairochana say, Venerable Sariputta, I regard the eye consciousness, and things knowable by eye consciousness. This is not mine, I'm not this is not myself. Likewise, I regard the ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, my consciousness, and things knowable by my consciousness in the same way. As this is not mine, I'm not this is not myself. Again, Venerable Sariputta asked, what have you seen? What have you directly known is in these things, that you regard them as not mine, I'm not this is not myself. Vairochana say, after seeing cessation, after directly knowing cessation in these things, I regard them in this way as not mine, I'm not this is not myself. When he said this, then Sariputta say, you should pay close attention to this instruction of the Buddha whenever you can. For the dependent there is agitation. For the independent, there's no agitation. When there's no agitation, there's tranquility. When there's tranquility, there's no inclination. When there's no inclination, there's no coming and going. When there's no coming and going, there's no passing away and reappearing. When there's no passing away and reappearing, there's no this world or world beyond or between the two. Just this is the end of suffering. So afterwards, Sariputta and Venerable Mahachanda give this advice to Venerable Channa, and then they got up from their seat and they left. Not long after those Venerable left, Venerable Channa slit his wrist. And Venerable Sariputta went to the Buddha and informed the Buddha about this, and asked the Buddha, where has been Venerable Channa reborn in his next life? And the Buddha asked Sariputta, didn't the mendicant Channa declare his blamelessness to you personally? When someone lays down this body and takes up another body, I call them blameworthy. But Channa did no such thing. You should remember, the mendicant Channa slit his wrist blamelessly. So the Buddha said this from Sariputta. So this explanation is telling that Ramachandra has free from rebirth, even though he suicide. Another occasion, there's another disciple of the Buddha, Venerable Vakali. When he was very sick, and then he asked his attendants to inform the Buddha and please invite the Buddha to come to his place. And the Buddha came by compassion. And the Buddha asked the same way, I hope you are bearing out, Vakali. I hope you are getting better. I hope that your painful feelings are subsiding and not increasing, and that their subsiding, not their increase, is to be discerned. Vakali said to the Buddha, I'm not bearing up. I'm not getting better. Strong painful feelings are increasing in me, not subsiding, and their increase, not their subsiding, is to be discerned. I hope then, Vakali, then you are not troubled by remorse and regret. But Venerable Vakali say, indeed, I have quite a lot of remorse and regrets. The Buddha say, I hope you have nothing for which to reproach yourself in regard to virtue. When Vakali say, I have nothing for which to reproach myself in regard to virtue. Then Buddha asked, why are you troubled by remorse and regret then? He said, for a long time I wanted to see the Buddha, but I haven't been fit enough to do so. The Buddha admonished him, Vakali, enough. Why do you want to see this full body? One who sees the Dhamma sees me. One who sees me sees the Dhamma. For in seeing the Dhamma, Vakali, one sees me, and in seeing me, one sees the Dhamma. The Buddha asked him, is a rupa, the form, permanent or impermanent? Vakali Venerable answered, impermanent. And then having understand that, the Buddha left. But not long after the Buddha left, Vakali Venerable asked his attendant to lift him up from the bed and carry him to the black rock on the Isigili slope. And then Venerable Vakali say, how can one like me think of dying among the houses? And then there, on the Mount Vulture Peak, where the Buddha rests, the Deva informed the Buddha. He say, Venerable Sir, the Bhikkhu Vakali intend on deliverance. And then the Deva went to the Venerable Vakali and said to him, "Do not afraid, Venerable Vakali, do not be afraid. Your death will not be a bad one. Your demise will not be a bad one." Why? Because Venerable Vakali is said to have liberated. So even though we find in the, in the time of the Buddha, that several of his disciples have suicide, but according to the sutta, they have been liberated. The reason that I brings up these suttas is to show that the physical body, the illness, the pain would agitate the mind very much, unless we could able to recollect the Dhamma and to recall again your experience to strengthen the mind as well, to calm down the mind, then it will be helpful to recover, to free from the sickness. As one way of self-healing besides medication. As we see today, we have many type of different disease, different illness. When the mind, whenever is agitated and affected by the body, it's good that to calm down the mind, to separate it from the body. Then it brings a lot of peacefulness. I think this is one of the way how the mind could help to support the body, to help oneself in the practice. Today we have a meditation session where we sit silence for 20 minutes. That also, is not usual as like what usually we do during this Dhamma sharing session, but I think it is good that for ourselves sometimes to be alone, like when you do not have anyone with you, how you are applying the Dhamma and your practice to help yourself when no one around. Because not all the time we can have someone around us. You have to self-help. Then, yeah, at a time it's a good test for ourselves to see if I'm independent enough to some extent that I'm able to heal myself, I'm able to help myself when there's no one around. Life is busy, everyone is busy with different things. I need to be strong enough sometimes. Yeah. Okay. I think perhaps I would like so much to hear from you now. If you have some sharing with me on your personal experience like I do this evening. Yeah. And this kind of allergic to that medication, it's not happen like all the time, but it just thing changed during my teenage time. Yeah. I remember during my childhood, I also take quite some Panadol whenever I have fever. But after teenage, it changed things where I cannot take anymore. Once I take, I will have difficult to breathe even. So it's more serious. It's better don't take. Yeah, to let it recover by itself. And I remember when I was in Burma, at that time when the COVID come, so everyone have to take injection, right? Then when I take the first dose, I was really sick, high fever. Then I lie down for 3 days, 2 nights, no food, cannot get up. But from my kuti, I can hear the Dhamma hall, with the loudspeaker, the Venerable monk Sangha are doing evening chanting. Every evening they are chanting. When I listen to the chanting, I feel soothing, I feel comfort, no pain at all. The mind feels energized. I think this is the the faithful character of a person. Like in Buddhism, he analyzed personality of human being in different categories. Some is intelligent type, some is faithful type. Yeah, and also the way of enlightenment also have you can they also refers like divide into these different categories. Some people get enlightenment through faith, some through wisdom, so different way. Through the meditation, you can see how you get enlightenment. For example, in vipassana meditation. So the door through enlightenment you can know by yourself. The faithful person, how they get attain enlightenment is different experience with the meditation object. Between the faithful and the intelligent type character personality. Okay. So, Elaine, you raise your hand, please.
Good evening, Aya. I'm not really clear on Chana,
Chana. Yes.
And I thought suicide wouldn't be okay for anybody.
Yes. This is, yeah. Actually, I share this, like I say, to show that how much the physical illness, pain, discomfort can affect the mind, even for the one who practice or the one who enlighten. This sometimes we really get shocked because we thought that enlightened one, the mind is very stable, free from defilement, and how their mind would be agitated by the physical sickness, physical pain, but it happened. But once they recall again the experience of on the spiritual path, the attainment about the factors on enlightenment, then it helps the mind to focus again and they recover immediately. And this is not a good example about suicide due to sickness. Today, we also see people talk about euthanasia, right? When people get very sick and then they wish to have their dignity, they wish to make their own decision, asking another person to help them, especially the doctor. But in Buddhism, committing suicide is not allowed. For example, as a bhikkhu or bhikkhuni, our own rule, we are not allowed to do this. This is like the a great offense. We should not kill others, and likewise not self-suicide.
Thank you, Aya.
Yeah, but the example here, it tells us that those Venerable monks that have committed suicide, they are free from rebirth. That's what the Buddha say on these cases. But definitely suicide is not encouraged, and we should not do that because we understand about karma and rebirth. If we are in very painful and we suicide, what comes next? Still rebirth, and that karma more heavy, and the future path on the next coming life will be even perhaps more difficult, because when we want to kill an elephant compared to killing ants, the efforts you you spend so much efforts, and when you kill yourself, the same. Momentarily, a lot of unwholesome mind state intention arise that you are able to do that. So it creates a lot of karma in the mind and also in the action. But when we look at euthanasia, maybe sometimes people don't understand and people think this is okay to do. But in Buddhist perspective, we are not encouraged, and this is not something right to do. Yeah. Richard, please.
Thank you, Aya.
Yes.
First, I wanted to ask a question. I thought the rules for the monastics was that they could not assist or encourage anyone else
Correct.
to commit suicide. Yeah.
Right.
So, but self-choice is a different matter. Okay. So, as far as being cured from illness by remembering these type of things, one has to keep in mind that there's different kinds of illness. There's psychosomatic illness, where the state of your mind can cause you to, too much stress or anxiety or depression or other things like that can cause you to become ill. And then there's more physically related illness, something that you can't do anything about, maybe like fourth stage cancer or, heart attack, a very bad heart or something like that. And this is why we see even the Buddha sometimes. I know there's this one sutra where the Buddha was sick for about a week in his hut or his room, and he came out to sit in the sun finally after about a week. And Ananda sees him, and Ananda goes up to him and says, "Oh Lord, I was so worried about you because you were sick for a whole week." And I was wondering. So you might think to yourself, well, why didn't the Buddha just think of the 7 enlightenment factors or something like that? Or like in these cases, why aren't they just telling some of these individuals, why don't you just think of the 7 enlightenment factors? Instead, Sariputta starts asking about whether he's detached or not from this I am, this is mine, this is myself, right? That's really what these questions are about. So it's because, some illnesses you can't really you can't do anything about. They're just, that's just what's going on. And you can't just change your mind and suddenly become well. The Buddha couldn't do that for himself either. There's no evidence of that in any sutra where he just changed his mind and suddenly became, healthy and well or anything like that. And but the thing with the Buddha is he would not be disturbed because he was sick. It didn't affect his mind. He just dealt with it from a physical perspective. So this thing here now, you were reading, I believe, maybe Bhakti Sujato's not Bhikkhu Sujato's translation, where he's talking about slitting your wrist or something. Actually, I think he talks about this himself in his lectures, and he says sometimes he translates things into something that Westerners can more readily understand. But the original practice would have been cutting your jugular vein, because it's very quick, no blood flow to the brain goes unconscious, and you pass away very quickly. Whereas slitting your wrist is a very long process, it's a very slowly, slow process. They wouldn't have done that. So when he's translating like that, he's just, because that's like the Western tradition. Yeah, the Romans used to commit suicide like that and things, and even to this day, some people, still do that. So that's kind of like, he's trying to translate in a way that like Westerners can kind of identify with. But anyways, I think it's important to understand that there's different kinds of illness, and yes, stabilizing the mind can overcome a psychosomatic illness. I know for myself, one time, I suddenly came down with like a flu, and a friend of mine recommended a particular doctor, and this doctor did a bunch of different practices like acupuncture and stuff like that. And I went to see that doctor, and they had me lay on a table, and he was putting like paper towels soaked with alcohol on my stomach, and he was having me breathe a certain way. But while he was doing that, he was asking me some questions, probing my mind. And as he was doing that, suddenly I remembered a childhood trauma. And when I remembered that trauma, the sickness went away. And he remarked that I had dried 10 paper towels of the alcohol. He thought that was a large number. But anyways, it was like an instantaneous thing. It literally, when I remember the childhood trauma, the feeling of like coming down with the flu, very sick and weak and everything just went away, and I was totally back to normal. So it is possible like that if you break through some kind of psychological break, and I know because I had the experience myself. Who says all knowledge is dependent on experience? that type of thing, can work. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for
Thank you,
listening.
Richard. I appreciate so much for your sharing. Yeah, it's true that, different type of sickness, it's different how you handle it. Sometimes if we have a physical bodily pain, that you can still handle it, then you just use the mind contemplation, you can. But when it's very severe where you cannot do anything, you just lie down, then you need something stronger. It's very individual. It depends on what is work for you that can help to cure. Yeah. How about Ananya? Would you like to share something about your experience?
Well, as far as the suicide, in this particular, the Chana Sutta, he's an arahant, and that Sariputta questions him specifically again right before he's going to do this, and it's clear that he has released. There's nothing further. So in those instances, there's nothing for him to gain by remaining because he's already become enlightened. That's usually not the case, obviously, for most people contemplating that or doing assisted end of life, assisted suicide. I heard Ajahn Brahm and Ajahn Brahmali talk about this, that there should be no condemnation of someone who does commit suicide, that there are so many factors unknown to us in their karmic journey, that it should not be a cause of shame or whatever for the family or anything, just to not treat it in that regard. And that makes the most sense to me. Having had a friend who was facing Alzheimer's and had the diagnosis, and there was no coming out of that. There wasn't going to be any way to improve that. And that was her decision. So again, it's a very complex issue, and certainly, I guess mainly what I'm pointing out is not to judge it out of hand or out of turn that, oh, this happened, then that means X. There's a whole lot more involved than we could possibly know.
So what I hope is, like, our Dhamma friends here, we have been listening to a Dhamma talk for years, and we have been practice meditation, and I hope that we didn't go to go, like, we don't have to go up to that point. That means the Dhamma are able to help us. Yeah, I hope that we are able to help ourselves with the Dhamma. Yeah, we are not that someone never heard about Dhamma before, and you have.
Hello, can you hear me?
Sorry.
I got my audio to work. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
I had a little bit of technical issues.
Okay, thank you. So we hope that the Dhamma is really helpful for us for what we have learning and practicing so far. We know that each and every one of us could not escape. Everyone have to go through aging, sickness, illness, and death. But how the way that we we approach it, how we handle this, we got to prepare. Not only for the aging, even for the young. Yeah, the same. Like when I see like many devotees, some very aging. Like this year, I came back from the Buddhist University back to my country and go to different states in the country, meet some of my devotees, and I see a group of them were in Penang Island, my birthplace. They are 80 over, 90 over. Each one of them that have like eye contact surgery, knee surgery because of aging. Everyone take turn, and so I really hope that what they have listened to Dhamma for many years, for decades, and for their practice, it would really help them, especially during the sick time, during the old age. We do not want to like focus only on medication, but hopefully meditation would help and have a suitable amount of medication only, because many of them after operation the knee so pain, and you can have painkiller, but some they know how to control to some extent of pain. They can handle it with their mind, but some other they have little pain, they take painkiller, little pain they take again, take up to 3 months long like that. So we know ourselves how much we cultivate our mind and can handle the sickness. They might have more severe sickness come later, but now if time still early for us, then I hope we can train our mind well, able to handle it better. Because anyhow, we have to face it ourselves, right? Even there's doctor, but there are times that doctor even can't help with the morphine, everything can't help. It's better we help ourselves by train our mind earlier. That will be very good supportive condition for us if we know how to cultivate our mind. This is not only for this life, right? That's come in many lives the same. We need this mind that has been cultivated well, that very helpful on the samsara journey until we gain enlightenment. Right? And hope this listen of the Dhamma sharing is not only listening and intellectual knowledge, but it's helpful in life, any moment, especially during the difficult time, during the helpless time. You have to experience this body and mind yourself and help yourself when no one else can help. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Nina, for sharing. How about Daniel? Are you ready for some sharing after listening to some friends?
Sure. I read the sutta ahead of time, just to familiarize myself with it. And it was really a nice, concise way of sort of walking through kind of contemplations and Dhamma practices. I think it's interesting to note how, in a lot of suttas, and this one as well, that kind of the process of spiritual development starts with this awareness of unpleasantness, awareness of, just the unpleasantness of samsara, of having a body, of getting sick, of getting old, and then moves to the experience of letting go and giving up. And I especially like the part in the sutta, I know we didn't read it, but where the bhikkhu is meditating and this is peaceful, this is sublime, this is the stilling of all activities and attachments. And I really liked that, especially this sort of, I don't know, that the initial awareness of suffering and unpleasantness, rather than being this really negative, bad thing, is kind of the start of the path and the start of getting to a point where one celebrates letting go of that and is able to let go of that because they see clearly what it is. And so I really liked that progression in the sutta.
Thank you. And I think it is not only like it helps to um, to reduce the physical suffering, but in at the same time, meanwhile, you also like upgrade the mind. Like from life to life, if we cultivate and then it helps to improve the mind, in better state, it's accumulating. And sometimes when we are not sick, we don't see that importance of this. We might, okay, later when I have time, I do it. But if we see really contemplate and aware of the urgency of this urgency, a type of urgency in life, one of that, the sickness, old age, then we really will put time for it. But also it also depends on the supportive condition. Many of you have to earn livelihood. There are things that people are saying, like you're selling yourself, selling your time to the company in exchange for livelihood, right? There are also our friends that in old age, like saying, oh, for living, she still need to work, like even 70, 80. No. So when we have time, please to spend some time for all practice. That'll be helpful. Sometimes it might be boring. I agree, but after some time you are used to it, you just feel normal. It's not boring, it's normal, and you feel that you're so lucky you could have time to practice. Not everyone got it. Some people have to work all the time, working. No time to practice. They're so lucky. Thank you. Thank you, Daniel, for sharing. Richard.
Thank you, Aya. Oh, I forgot to mention before one thing. There's also mental illness. A person could not necessarily be showing any physical symptoms, but they could just be in a very deep depression and just feeling very miserable and stuff about life. And so these type of contemplations like they're giving here could probably help a person like that, because it's possible that even a noble disciple who's a sotapan or a once returner, they still have sensual desire and anger to some extent or another. And it's possible that that could cause them to become depressed over something temporarily. I don't think it would affect a non-returner, and definitely wouldn't affect an arahant, because that person knows it at a totally different level. Another thing I wanted to mention was in this Chanovada Sutta, towards the end, he says, this is Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. When this was said, the Venerable Mahachanda said to the Venerable Channa, therefore, friend Channa, the instruction of the Blessed One is to be constantly given attention. There is no wavering in one who is dependent. There is no wavering in one who is, there is wavering in one who is dependent. There is no wavering in one who is independent. When there is no wavering, there is tranquility. When there is tranquility, there is no bias. When there is no bias, there is no coming and going. When there is no coming and going, there is no passing away and reappearing. When there is no passing away and reappearing, there is no here, nor beyond, nor in between. This is the end of suffering. Now, this last section in particular, there is no here, nor beyond, nor in between, sort of has misunderstood, sort of a mystical connotation, but it simply means that normally Buddha describes the process of, okay, you're here now, you pass away, you go into this intermediary stage, and then you take some kind of rebirth. It could be back into the physical realm or in some heavenly realm, whatever. So that's what they're referring to here. That for this person, because they've attained arahantship, this is really not a dependent abode anymore, the physical body. But there's also no intermediary stage, and there's no again birth somewhere. So it's not just making sort of like a philosophical or mystical type of comment. It's actually a very practical thing according to what the Buddha teaches. So for one who's an arahant, there's not going to be any intermediary stage, and there's not going to be any rebirth. And obviously, this is not something like it said earlier. For one who is there's no wavering for one who is independent. And independent means they're independent of relying on the five khandhas, the four elements, the senses, things like that. Anyway, thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Richard. This brings to my mind that when we look at the Pali and the Chinese text, we see the difference. In Pali text, we usually think that when the person last breath stop, and in next moment, taking rebirth. But in Chinese text, you will have intermediate periods of maximum like 49 days. Yeah, the difference. Another one you mentioned about mental disorder. It reminds me about when I study in Sri Lanka for the Buddhist counseling course. So we were taught about Dhamma therapy. So how you give a treatment for those we call client, but it can be our devotees or anyone that they might have a mental disorder, then try to get help from in the Dhamma way to get a treatment. So after I learned that is my second master degree in Sri Lanka. Then I learned this one, and also at the time the professor was asking you need to learn about Western psychology as well as support, not only Buddhism. Then I agree with that, and I learned, and I found that it helps a lot in how to practically applicable to decline. That is so-called kind, actually, like sour devotees. So in the same year, when I do my MA, I do the business psychology as well. I mean, just a basic, the diploma. And I try to apply. So it just happened that after I back to my country for just a few months, then there was usually I do for ladies only, not male, because not so convenient by Vinaya. So I try to apply that, and the result is good. Like after a couple of months, so he gradually recover, and she adjusts herself the medication she gets from psychiatry where it doesn't work, where she have severe depression and always think about the suicide. Then after taking a medicine, she still feel it doesn't help her. So when there's no way, she not even a Buddhist, and then she came to the temple and want to find if someone can help from the Buddhist temple. And then fortunately for her case, I also feel that it's a very individual, see the seriousness of the mental illness, and I'm glad that it's helpful for her. And she recovered. Now I think already 2.5 years. Yeah. And she fully recovered, no more taking the medication, and find a new job, and yeah, can take good care of her parents. That I'm really passionate on this about how the Dhamma could really help human beings. And during the COVID, after the COVID, I heard so many people have depression and mental disorder. Then it comes to my mind, the teaching of the Buddha can solve the problem in the world, and people are having depression and people are suicide. It must be a way to help them. And if people, we know that if they go to Western psychology, psychiatry, it costs them so much, and they are not everyone are affordable for that cost. So then end up they got more severe and more severe. Then that's why I take this course in Sri Lanka, and having known that the Buddhist University offer this program. Yeah. Then would like to know, after learning, can practically help some of our devotees. Yeah. Okay, so before the end of this session, I need to make an announcement for Dhamma Dharini. On the, let me see. So there is one event on the 2nd November. In Dhamma College, Berkeley, 2:30 p.m. There's a sacred ceremony and meditation for, it's about formal relics reception, puja, offerings, and silent meditation with the relics of Venerable Mahapajapati Gautami and also other Arahantarics. In that evening also there's a film showing. The title is Gautami Buddha Mata. There is English subtitle because it's a Sri Lanka feature film. And for lay people on that evening also they will serve a dinner. So if you have time, you're welcome to join. When I get to know this news, it's a little bit late, where I'm heading back to my country. But I'm rejoiced in everyone here in the monastery have a chance to go and accept this Mahapajapati Gautami, Theri Arahant, relics, and also to enjoy this Dhamma film. Okay, and perhaps there's condition in the future we can share Dhamma and discussion of Dhamma again. Okay, everyone, I wish you good health, long life, so that you can practice, continue in your path, delight in the Dhamma, free from suffering, mentally and physically, and may you attain the final liberation at the earliest opportunity. May you be blessed by the triple gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, and the Venerable Sangha. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Take care, everyone.
Have a safe
Sadhu,
trip
sadhu,
home.
sadhu.
Thank you, Aya.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aya.
Right,
Be
sadhu.
safe.
Thank you, Aninia.
Have a safe trip home, Aya. Hopefully we'll talk again.
Yes. Thanks, Daniel. I hear you. Thanks, everyone. It's really glad to know each and every one of you.
Likewise.
Likewise.
Okay, Richard, bye.